Lads, I overslept. It's 25 past 9. I was due to get up at 7:15 to get into the clinic I say clinic, but it's mainly used as my office. Because Monday is my heavy sort of check-in day. Set my alarm for 7:15. It went off. I was like, oh my god, I need 10 more minutes in bed. So I pressed snooze. Well, I thought I did, and I didn't. So next minute, my son comes into the room and it's like 9:15. I'm like, oh no. And I wouldn't mind, but I have 3 hours of educational Zoom calls today for myself that I can't not do. Well, I could, but it's for the benefit of my clients that I do it, so it needs to be done. So it's running a little bit behind now, which just means I'm going to have to work later today. And because tomorrow here is a bank holiday or public holiday, it's Paddy's Day, I was planning to take a couple hours off, but I may not be able to do that. But that's the perks, what we call it, of working for yourself. You have no one to, you have to be responsible for your own actions. There's no one's going to come out and back you up or cover your shift or, cover your work. So it's not all roses and rainbows when you're self-employed, but those little, I call them little because in the grand scheme of things, the rewards of working for yourself and helping people like I do, whether it be from getting out of pain or from getting stronger, efficiently increasing their performance, that kind of stuff, it's well worth it. So I'm just stopping at my local shop up the road here to get a coffee so that when I get into the office, I have a little bit more of a pep in my step. So I did a poll recently about asking people if they had direct shoulder work in their programming, mainly powerlifters. Now, when I say direct shoulder work, I mean, things like lat raises, front raises, reverse flies, whatever it is, that directly targets the tissue of the shoulder. And I suppose it was a good result that 80% of people said they did. But what I found in my practice, and as if you've been following me for any length of time, you'll know that I treat strength athletes, predominantly powerlifters, and that I found the ones that have shoulder pain are generally the ones with the least amount or no direct shoulder work in their training. Now, I'm not going to give you a scientific fact that that's the reason why the shoulders hurt. I'm just saying it looks like it's a bit of a coincidence that the majority of them come to me with shoulder pain don't have that work. And I mean, it can be a simple thing like just doing a strict press, because we recruit a lot of the fibers of the delts in general. It's not directly specific to front, medial, or rear. So you can do that if you're stuck for time. But what we have to remember is the roles the shoulder plays in squat, bench, and deadlift is quite significant. I mean, in the squat, especially when you're low bar squatter, you have to get quite into that abducted and externally rotated position, which generally would require lengthening of things like the pec major and pec minor, as well as things like your subscapularis, which is your internal rotator of your fore rotator cuff muscles. And if that tissue doesn't want to lengthen for whatever reason, the neurological response will be create a bit of tension, right? So then you're going to have to sort of force yourself into that position. When you force your body into a position, the general response is going to be pain, because that's the only way it can talk to you, right? And say, oh, I don't really like that. It doesn't mean something is physically wrong in the sense that you've just torn something or ruptured something, or that there's any pathological damage at all. But we have to be aware that putting yourselves in positions that your body doesn't really want to go to under load generally doesn't end well in terms of being pain-free. And in terms of bench, I mean, look at the amount of rotation that happens at your shoulder joint. You're coming all the way down, you're coming all the way up. You're basically doing a front to back rotation, right? I'm not going to I try to use simple terms. I could say, anterior to posterior, but we don't need to try and be nerdy here. I'm talking to general people, athletes and stuff. I'm not trying to educate someone that does what I do, because that would be dumb. So understand, I'll try to use the simplest terms that everyone understands, and there's no room for misinterpretation or error, right? Anyway, back to that. So when a joint is moving, tissue is working, right? And if tissue is working and there's load, then you can only move that joint within the capacity of that tissue. And when you exceed the capacity of tissue, you get an injury or pain. Pretty much, that's what happens. You can obviously surpass its capacity to some levels where, excuse me, it ruptures, tears partially. Well, there's just what people, I suppose, would commonly refer to as a strain, where there's been of excessive tension on that tissue and now it just aches. And in the deadlift, I mean, the idea is you can't retract your shoulders in a deadlift and hold the weight. So whoever tells you you need to retract your shoulders in a deadlift, I have heard this cue quite a few times, believe it or not, has no idea of what happens in the upper body in deadlift. Nothing at all. Because if you think you have the ability of your little rhomboids to retract your scapula and hold it there while you pull 200 plus, 300 plus off the floor, you're daydreaming. You are to depress them is the ideal situation, and by depressing them, you're going to involve the shoulders because they have to be depressed. But obviously it's not necessarily a deltoid capacity thing, but your pec minor will generally contract to pull them down if you actively depress. But theoretically the weight of the bar should depress them to some extent if you also relax your shoulders a bit. And this is where some people struggle with things in training, is learning to relax the body parts even though there's load involved. A prime example is at the likes of a row. People are so stiff for cable row. People are so stiff when they pull the bar towards them, and when they come forward, they don't let their shoulders actually move. So their shoulders stay put and only their arm moves. But that negates the majority of the point of, say, a seated row. You want the shoulders to round forward at the end so the scapula comes around the ribs and tissue gets lengthened as much as it can before it contracts, because I mean mechanical tension is generally the method or the mechanism that develops hypertrophy, and by creating lengthening and shortening as much as possible, you will generally create more mechanical tension, and this is how you will grow tissue. People use the comparison of like say a house. You have a concrete foundation in general. This is generalizing. You have a concrete foundation and you have bricks and mortar or blocks and mortar, whatever, that are built up to create your wall and your shell as such. Now if you were to skip every fourth or fifth block with concrete, the house will still be built and still stand. But there is a chance at some point you may develop cracks in that area or a weakness where something starts to change. And what that is, maybe a wall starts to sink. Now I'm not a builder, so this is just like hypothetical stuff that probably maybe is impossible to happen, but in my head I'm just trying to find a way to correlate this to. So by not training your shoulders directly, the tissue in your shoulders, in my opinion, you're creating a potential for a lack of more progress, a higher risk of reaching the intolerance of that tissue in a situation where the load is shifted more to it than it would normally. So when you fail a lift, load can sometimes shift because you cave in on something, whether your arm gives way and you try to catch it on the way down. In the squat, people fall forward, they try to pull themselves back, next with lower back goes, oh, don't like that, that's sore, because they haven't really got strong in extension and now they're trying to extend under severe load. Obviously these are things that can happen of accident. You can't prepare yourself for an accident. But by training all the tissue in your body, and that sounds like a lot, it's not really. And by that I mean if you did an overhead press and a behind the neck overhead press, that probably covers the majority of your shoulder work that you would need. And that's 2 exercises a week. And you could superset that with your leg press or your lower body session. So your lower body accessories after SBD or something. So there's no real excuse saying, oh, it's going to add too much time to my training. You can just train smarter and superset with a lower body. Therefore, the muscular fatigue isn't affected. The recovery happens between the 2 exercises. And you'll get your bang for your buck. Triceps play a huge role in your bench. And a lot of people, when they're starting to fail after midway up, it's their triceps that's half their problem. So, therefore, if I got stronger triceps by giving them a direct love and attention and effort and created hypertrophy, then surely when they are called on to be used, they'll be better. And that's why I say to my clients, your accessories are to be treated like a bodybuilder and your SPD like a powerlifter. And that is such a common term, but I've seen people's videos. I've seen people in the gym training accessories, and they sandbag them so often. In other words, they undershoot them so much. The amount of recovery needed to recover from a set of leg extensions or bicep curls or rows or whatever, compared to coming close to failure on a squat or deadlift, is night and day. You can recover from accessories so much quicker than your compounds on equal RPEs. So train your accessories as hard as you can and find ways of improving. So I'm the type of person that likes to work in the rep range of 6 to 8 reps. For me, I enjoy that and I respond very well to it. But then that may not work for you. You may not like that. I don't believe you need more than 12 reps in an accessory. I've seen people's programs come to me and they got like 20 reps of this and 15 reps of this, and I'm like, there's no real evidential or scientific basis to do that compared to doing less. It's about effort and intensity more than it is about quantity in terms of reps. So my clients know, train some accessories to failure. And because I say, if I work in a 6 to 8 rep range, what I mean by is, if I can hit all 3 or 4 sets of my accessory, 2 to 4 sets, to the 8 reps without failure, I need to increase the load and aim for 6 reps, or maybe even 5, and then keep pushing that weight until I can hit all 8 reps for all sets. Then I increase the load and drop back. And sometimes I've dropped back from 8 down to like 3 reps. I don't care, because that will still stimulate hypertrophy. I will still grow muscle tissue. And show me a powerlifter that trains their accessories like a bodybuilder, their compounds like a powerlifter, and per recoverable RPE, that doesn't look like they're in good shape. And that will stand to you. Strength, if I had to say something would, I know we can't stop injuries, we can't prevent them, but if I could say to you that there is one thing to prevent injuries, that would be strength. And in my own case, having my cancer last year and finishing up this year, my oncologists, my hematologist, my cardiothoracic surgeon, I have 6 consultants. I have everything. Like the most common thing that's been said to me by them is, what made your process easier, and by no means, trust me, it wasn't easy, but easier, and made my recovery so much quicker than many others, was because I had so much muscle mass on me going in. I was so strong going in. I lost 40 pounds, 18 odd kilograms roughly, of muscle mass, because I became so sedentary, and having my chest cut open means obviously my activity levels become very reduced through recovery. But that's not saved me, because the cancer was never gonna kill me from what I understood, but it made the recovery process easier and made it quicker. So, there is no such thing as negativity to having muscle mass. So train your accessories to grow the muscle. You don't need research and evidence for that. It's basic logic, because, as I say, the majority of injuries and sort of aches and pains, especially when they're pathological, like tears and stuff, is because you surpassed the tolerance of the tissue. So if you can increase the tolerance and the capacity of the tissue, then by proxy, it's going to take more strain, more load, more effort, more intensity to get to that point where you break the tolerance again. So, I mean, if that doesn't make you think to train accessories hard, then I don't know what will. But I get people like, oh, I don't like accessories, or my coach doesn't program them. Well, ask them why not. And if you want accessories, ask them to put them in, because coaching is a two-way street. So here's what happened yesterday at the end of that section of the video. You don't just do what you're told as a client to a coach. You have to do it. That's one of the things I'll say to So I'm continuing now. So yeah, coaching is a two-way street. If you want more accessories in your training, discuss it with your coach. They may have a reason as to why they're not. But if you don't ask, you don't get. I have plenty of clients that are powerlifters, but they also looking to develop a body part, like maybe grow some shoulders, or grow glutes, or grow a bigger chest. For men, obviously. So these things can also be done alongside your training, and that'll be another element of enjoyment in your training when you're doing things you enjoy and you want to do, and as another sort of side quest to the main goal of powerlifting, which is get stronger. So I will be posting more videos with exercises in them after this. I'll probably start with shoulders, things you can do in your training, accessories you can add in, and what they might help with.